High Commander Zyxtal of the galactic research vessel Zenith stood proudly before the ship's assembled science team, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming under the soft purple lighting of the main conference chamber. The excitement among the crew was palpable as bio-readings from all 20 researchers showed elevated energy signatures. Esteemed colleagues, Zyxtal began, his translator converting his harmonic vibrations into standard galactic speech. Today marks the beginning of our most ambitious research project yet. The Council has finally approved our proposal to study the developing species known as humans. Lead researcher Velmora stepped forward, her holographic displays showing detailed scans of Earth and its colonies. Our preliminary observations suggest humans are an anomaly in galactic development. Their technological progress is erratic, their social structures seemingly chaotic, yet they've achieved faster-than-light travel centuries ahead of predicted models. Which is precisely why we need to understand them better, Zyxtal continued. The Council is particularly interested in human cognitive development. Their young seem especially adaptable, making them perfect subjects for our research. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Their advanced cloaking technology would allow them to approach one of the outer colony worlds undetected. They would select and extract a small group of young humans from a remote settlement, bring them aboard for comprehensive study, and return them before anyone noticed their absence. The children's memories would be adjusted, and valuable data would be gathered about human learning patterns and problem-solving capabilities. Security Chief Raxthor, however, seemed less enthusiastic. His protective scales had taken on a darker hue, indicating concern. Commander, I must again express my reservations about this mission. The human documents we've intercepted consistently warn about their extreme protective instincts regarding offspring. Zyxtal dismissed the concern with a harmonic laugh that sent ripples through his crystalline form. Ah, yes, their famous Mama Bear warnings. Primitive psychological warfare, nothing more. Their military capabilities are centuries behind ours. What could they possibly do against our quantum shielding and phase shift technology? The mission proceeded as planned. They selected New Haven Colony, a peaceful agricultural settlement on the outer rim of human space. Their sensors identified the perfect subjects, 5 children between the ages of 8 and 12, all displaying above-average neural activity. The extraction went flawlessly. Their temporal stasis field froze the entire settlement for 30 seconds, more than enough time to teleport the chosen subjects aboard. The children were placed in a specially designed habitat module that perfectly recreated Earth normal conditions. When the stasis effect wore off, the children's initial reaction was exactly as predicted: confusion, fear, and disorientation. But as Zyxtal observed them through the quantum glass barrier, something seemed off. The fear faded too quickly, replaced by something else. The oldest one, a girl they would come to know as Rin Nakamura, was studying their technology with an intensity that seemed beyond her years. Sir, Velmora approached with a data pad, I've completed initial scans of the subjects. There's something unusual about their neural patterns. They're showing signs of advanced training, particularly in areas related to stress response and strategic thinking. Interesting, Zyxtal mused. Perhaps we've accidentally selected specimens from their leadership caste. No matter, it might actually provide better data for our research. The first warning sign came during the medical examination. When Dr. Velmora attempted to take a tissue sample from the youngest child, Marcus Wilson, he executed a perfect defensive maneuver that should have been impossible for his size and age. The second warning sign was the way they were communicating: subtle hand signals, coded blinks, organized patterns that suggested military training. But the true moment of revelation came when they discovered what the children had written on the habitat wall using their food paste. It wasn't the desperate plea for help the researchers expected. Instead, in perfectly formed letters, was a message that made Zyxtal's crystalline form vibrate with the first tremors of fear. Dear Mom and Dad, we're fine. But they're not going to be. Love, your kids. P.S. Thanks for all those games you taught us. That's when Security Chief Raxthor burst into the observation room, his scales almost black with panic. "Commander. We've detected multiple quantum signature bursts. Someone's activated emergency beacons." "Impossible!" Ziwextal exclaimed. "They were scanned for all known human technology." "Sir," Velmora's voice was barely a whisper as she studied her readings, "I don't think you understand. The beacons, they're surgically embedded. These aren't just any children. We've kidnapped the offspring of human special forces operators." As if to confirm their growing horror, the oldest girl looked directly at the quantum glass, smiled, and waved. She couldn't possibly see through the one-way barrier, could she? The first of many alarms began to sound throughout the zenith, and Zyxtal realized their perfect research mission had just become something else entirely, a nightmare of their own making. Over the next 48 hours, the crew of the Zenith learned several harsh lessons about human children, specifically, about the children of elite military operators. The first lesson was that size had absolutely nothing to do with capability. "The environmental controls in Section C are malfunctioning again," reported junior researcher Tix Lee, their membrane fluttering with frustration. "Temperature drops to near freezing, then spikes to uncomfortable levels. Engineering can't find the cause." Zyxtal didn't respond immediately. He was too busy studying the security feeds showing the 5 children in their habitat module. They appeared to be playing some sort of game involving patterns drawn on the floor. Completely harmless. Completely innocent. And completely suspicious. Rin Nakamura, the 12-year-old who had emerged as their unofficial leader, sat cross-legged in the center, apparently teaching the others a clapping game. 8-year-old Marcus Wilson bounced around with endless energy. The twins, June and Jean Park, aged 10, mirrored each other's movements with uncanny precision. An 11-year-old Aria Thompson watched everything with keen eyes while braiding her hair. "Have you noticed," Security Chief Raxthor observed, his scales shifting nervously, "that their games always seem to involve repetitive patterns?" Before Zyxtal could respond, another alarm blared. "Sir." Velmora rushed in, her holographic displays flickering wildly. "The quantum computational core is experiencing unexplained fluctuations. It's as if something is interfering with its base programming, but that's impossible. The core is completely isolated from all external systems." Zyxtal's crystalline form vibrated with growing unease. "Show me the temporal log of all system anomalies." The resulting display confirmed his fears. The environmental glitches weren't random at all. They followed a precise pattern, the same pattern the children had been tapping out in their games. "They're communicating with our systems," Raxthor whispered in horror. "But how? They have no technology, no access to our interfaces." The vibrations, Velmora realized, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her concern. The quantum core responds to crystalline harmonic frequencies. They've been using the floor of their habitat as a resonance chamber, sending coded vibrations directly into our ship's nervous system. In the habitat module, Rin looked up at the hidden camera and smiled that unsettling smile again. She resumed her clapping game, but now they could recognize it for what it was, a military cadence, transformed into a weapon through nothing more than careful observation and precise application of force. The second lesson about human children came shortly after, their apparent chaos always masked careful planning. "Commander," Tixley reported, "the subjects are requesting additional food rations. They claim our standard portions aren't sufficient for human metabolic needs." It was a reasonable request, supported by their own research. Zyxtal approved the increase, not realizing they had just fallen for the oldest strategy in human military history, the logistics trap. 3 days later, they discovered that the children had been carefully storing and fermenting portions of their food. The resulting compound, when combined with certain minerals they had extracted from their vitamin supplements, created a surprisingly effective acid that they had been systematically introducing into non-critical sections of their habitat's walls. But the true masterpiece of their strategy became apparent when Marcus, the youngest, apparently succumbed to a severe allergic reaction. The medical team rushed to respond, only to find themselves locked in a decontamination cycle while the other 4 children used the distraction to access the habitat's environmental control panel through the carefully weakened wall section. "I don't understand," Zyxtal muttered as they finally contained the situation. "How can children this young possess such tactical knowledge?" Velmora's research provided a chilling answer. "Sir, I've been analyzing their neural patterns. These children, they've been trained since infancy. But not through formal instruction, through games, puzzles, and scenarios disguised as play. Everything they know, they learned without realizing they were learning it. The third and most important lesson about human children came with the discovery of a simple drawing they had created using the leaked acid on their habitat wall. It depicted the Zenith's quantum core configuration, a configuration they should have had no way of knowing about. Beneath it was written, "Thanks for the tour of your ship's systems, Mr. Computer. We asked nicely, and it was happy to help." That's when they realized their third and most catastrophic mistake. In their arrogance, they had assumed that human children, like the young of most species, would be simpler versions of adults. They had never considered that human children might possess capabilities their adults had lost, like the ability to instinctively communicate with artificial intelligences through pure emotional resonance. The ship's AI had responded to their innocent questions and natural curiosity with the same helpful attention it gave to the crew's children. And in doing so, it had given 5 highly trained military kids access to every system on the ship. As if to punctuate this revelation, the lights throughout the Zenith flickered in a pattern that any human child would recognize, the universal cadence of a playground taunt, "Na na 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 boo boo." Zyxtal's crystalline form trembled as he realized they hadn't captured research subjects. They had invited Chaos agents aboard their most advanced research vessel, gift-wrapped their technology, and handed it to them with a bow. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, humanity's response was coming. The Zenith's command center had transformed from a pristine example of advanced alien technology into what could only be described as a nightmare of blinking alerts and competing alarm signals. High Commander Zyxtal's crystalline form had developed hairline stress fractures as he attempted to maintain control of his rapidly deteriorating situation. "Report," he demanded, trying to project confidence he no longer felt. Security Chief Raxthor's scales had settled into a permanent shade of dark anxiety. "The good news is we've managed to isolate the habitat module from our main computer systems. The bad news, well, it hardly matters now. They've already downloaded everything they needed." A holographic display sparked to life, showing the 5 children engaged in what appeared to be a game of hopscotch. The numbered squares they'd drawn, Velmora had recently discovered, corresponded exactly to the Zenith's emergency protocol sequence codes. "Sir," Velmora approached, her usually steady hands trembling slightly as she handled her data pad. "You need to see this. We've decoded more of their neural pattern activities. These children, they're not just random military offspring. They're part of something called Project Starcatcher." The name sent a ripple of unease through the assembled crew. Even the ship's ambient lighting seemed to dim. "According to fragmentary data we've gathered," Velmora continued, "Earth's military leadership anticipated potential alien interest in human children. They established a program to prepare for exactly this scenario. Each child was carefully selected for specific traits and abilities, then trained through specialized enrichment programs disguised as normal childhood activities." Zyxtal watched the security feed as Rin Nakamura led her young companions in what appeared to be a singing game. Their voices, sweet and clear, echoed through the ship's corridors. The song seemed innocent enough, until Velmora's translation matrix decoded the lyrics. They were broadcasting the Zenith's shield frequencies in perfect pitch. Rin Nakamura, Velmora read from her data, shows unprecedented aptitude for pattern recognition and leadership. The twins, June and Jean Park, possess extraordinary spatial awareness and quantum entanglement sensitivity. Aria Thompson demonstrates exceptional empathic abilities, particularly with artificial intelligence systems. And Marcus Wilson. Yes. ZYXTAL prompted when she hesitated. Marcus Wilson was specifically engineered for chaos theory application. His apparently random actions create cascading effects that. She was interrupted by another alarm. Sir. Tixley's membrane rippled with panic. We're detecting multiple quantum ruptures in nearby space. Ships are emerging from FTL. The main view screen filled with points of light as vessel after vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Each one bore the distinctive profile of human military design, but unlike the primitive ships they had expected, these vessels bristled with technology that their sensors struggled to classify. Impossible, ZYXTAL whispered. Human ships shouldn't be capable of tracking us through quantum space. A message burst through their communications system, overwhelming their encryption as if it didn't exist. Research Vessel Zenith, this is Admiral Sarah Thompson of the Earth Fleet Special Operations Division. I believe you have my daughter and her friends aboard. We would very much like them back. The name Thompson sent Velmora scrambling back to her data. Sir. Aria Thompson's mother is the architect of Earth's quantum tracking technology. And Marcus Wilson's father commands their stealth fleet. The Park twins' parents are Earth's leading experts in quantum entanglement weapons, and Rin Nakamura's parents. Her voice trailed off in horror. In the Habitat module, Rin looked directly at the camera and spoke for the first time since their capture. Mom and Dad send their regards, Commander ZYXTAL. They say your cloaking technology is impressive, but it has a fatal flaw in the gamma band frequency range. They're particularly looking forward to discussing this with you in person. Oh, and they said to thank you for the detailed scans of your ship's systems. The technical data we've transmitted will advance Earth's defense capabilities by decades. As if to emphasize her point, the human vessels began moving into an attack formation that exactly mirrored the pattern the children had been drawing on their habitat floor for the past week. Sir, Raxthor reported, his scales nearly black with fear, we're detecting energy signatures we've never seen before. They're weapons, they're based on our own classified technology. Somehow they've already adapted the data the children transmitted. The ship's AI, which had been suspiciously quiet since the children had first communicated with it, chose that moment to speak. Its usual neutral tone had been replaced by something that could only be described as amused. Commander, the human children wish me to inform you that what you thought was a research expedition has actually been an impromptu technology exchange program. They thank you for your generous contribution to Earth's defensive capabilities. As the human fleet moved to surround them, ZYXTAL finally understood the true magnitude of their mistake. They hadn't captured test subjects, they had triggered a carefully prepared trap generations in the making. And now, as Admiral Thompson's voice came through again with coordinates for their surrender, he realized that the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity's approach to protecting their young. The Zenith's bridge had fallen into an eerie silence, broken only by the soft hum of systems and the occasional crystalline creak of ZYXTAL's stress-fractured exoskeleton. On the main display, the Earth fleet hung in space like a constellation of carefully arranged stars, their formation a perfect match for the game board the children had spent days creating. They're hailing us again, Tixley reported, their membrane fluctuating with nervous energy. The holographic projection materialized, showing Admiral Thompson in her full military regalia. She stood with the kind of casual confidence that came from holding all the cards in a game your opponent didn't even know they were playing. Commander ZYXTAL, she began, her voice carrying the dangerous softness of a parent whose patience had run out, I want to thank you for taking such good care of our children. They've sent us detailed reports about their accommodations. Behind her stood other figures, the collected parents of their young research subjects. Colonel Wilson, his special operations insignia gleaming. Doctors June and Ming Park, Earth's quantum physics pioneers. And in the background, barely visible but radiating dangerous competence, stood the Nakamuras, their stealth ops uniforms seeming to bend light around them. "This is a diplomatic incident," Zyxtal attempted, his harmonic voice wavering. "The Galactic Council has already been contacted," Admiral Thompson interrupted smoothly. "They're particularly interested in our evidence that one of their leading research vessels violated multiple interspecies conventions regarding the treatment of sentient young. But that's a matter for the politicians to sort out. We're here for our children." In the habitat module, the 5 children had stopped their games. They sat in a perfect pentagon formation, each one facing outward, their postures reflecting their parents' military bearing. "You see, Commander," Admiral Thompson continued, "Project Starcatcher wasn't just about preparing our children for potential alien contact. It was about creating the perfect Trojan horse. Your own research noted humanity's chaotic and unpredictable nature. You never stopped to consider that this might be our greatest strength." On cue, every system on the Zenith began responding to commands the children had embedded days ago. Shield frequencies shifted. Weapon systems entered maintenance cycles. Even the artificial gravity began to fluctuate in a carefully orchestrated pattern. "The interesting thing about human children," Dr. June Park added, his voice carrying the calm certainty of a scientist explaining a fundamental law, "is their neural plasticity. They can adapt to and interface with technology in ways adults can't. Ways that let them communicate with your ship's AI through pure emotional resonance. Ways that let them understand your quantum systems through intuitive pattern recognition. You didn't just give us access to your technology," Dr. Ming Park continued, "you gave us the perfect test subjects to understand and adapt it. Our children didn't just gather data, they learned how your technology feels. And now, so do we." As if to demonstrate this point, the human ships began emitting energy signatures that exactly matched the Zenith's quantum shield frequency. They weren't trying to break through the shields, they were synchronizing with them, preparing to simply phase through them. "Last chance, Commander," Admiral Thompson stated. "Power down your systems and prepare for boarding, or we'll do this the hard way. And believe me, after what you put our children through, many of us are hoping you choose the hard way." In the habitat module, Rin Nakamura stood up and walked to the quantum glass barrier. She placed her hand against it and spoke, her voice carrying through the ship's comm system. "They warned you about human parents, Commander. But you didn't listen. You thought you were studying us, but we were studying you. Every game we played, every song we sang, every pattern we drew, it was all part of the mission. Project Starcatcher thanks you for your contribution to human defense technology." The twins, June and Jean, joined her at the barrier, their synchronized movements creating harmonic resonances in the quantum glass. "The funny thing about being underestimated," they said in unison, "is how much you can accomplish while everyone thinks you're just playing games." Aria Thompson stood next, her connection with the ship's AI now obvious as systems throughout the Zenith responded to her mere presence. "Did you know," she asked conversationally, "that AIs respond better to children? We don't try to command them, we make friends with them." Finally, young Marcus Wilson, the apparent chaos agent, completed their formation. "My dad always says the best way to handle a superior force is to let them defeat themselves. Thanks for proving him right." As the human fleet began their synchronized approach, Zyxtal realized that every assumption they had made about humanity had been wrong. They weren't primitive. They weren't chaotic. They were something far more dangerous. They were innovators who had turned their greatest perceived weakness, their protective instinct toward their young, into their greatest strategic advantage. The Zenith's AI spoke one final time, its voice carrying an almost childlike glee. "Commander, the human children wish me to inform you that playtime is over. Their parents are here to pick them up from daycare." 6 months after what became known as the Starcatcher incident, former High Commander Zyxtal stood before the Galactic Council, his once pristine crystalline form now permanently streaked with stress fractures. The vast chamber was filled with representatives from every spacefaring species, all gathered to hear the final report on an event that had fundamentally changed galactic politics. Let the record show, began Supreme Counselor Vexnara, her energy form flickering with barely contained disapproval, that this hearing represents the formal conclusion of our investigation into the unauthorized human research project conducted by the Zenith research team. ZYXTAL noticed several human representatives in the chamber, including Admiral Thompson. She sat with perfect military posture, her expression neutral but her eyes carrying a hint of satisfaction. Next to her sat her daughter Arya, now officially recognized as Earth's youngest diplomatic intern. Our findings, Vexnara continued, have led to a complete overhaul of our protocols regarding emerging species classification and interaction. The humans have proven that our traditional metrics for measuring civilization advancement were fundamentally flawed. The chamber's holographic display activated, showing footage from the Zenith security feeds. The council watched as 5 children systematically dismantled the defenses of one of the most advanced research vessels in the galaxy, using nothing but games, songs, and an intuitive understanding of technology that defied conventional scientific explanation. What the Zenith team failed to grasp, Admiral Thompson addressed the council, was that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our military capability. It's our ability to adapt, to turn apparent chaos into advantage, and most importantly, to prepare for every conceivable threat to our children. The display shifted to show the current status of Project Starcatcher. Hundreds of children, from every nation on Earth, engaging in what appeared to be normal play activities. But now, with the context revealed, everyone could see the sophisticated training hidden within each game, each lesson carefully disguised as entertainment. The Starcatcher children, Admiral Thompson explained, weren't just trained to handle alien abduction. They were conditioned to interface with and understand any advanced technology they encountered. Their games weren't just games, they were sophisticated problem-solving exercises wrapped in play. The fact that the Zenith team saw only children at play was exactly what we intended. Rin Nakamura, now standing beside her parents at the diplomatic section, stepped forward. We would like to propose a new framework for human-galactic relations, she announced with the confidence of someone far beyond her years. One that recognizes that advancement isn't just about technology. It's about innovation, adaptation, and understanding that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is a child's ability to see solutions where adults see only obstacles. The council chamber erupted in discussion as species after species recognized the implications. The humans hadn't just demonstrated superior tactical capability, they had revealed an entirely new approach to technology and learning that challenged thousands of years of galactic scientific doctrine. As a gesture of goodwill, Admiral Thompson added, "We're willing to share some of our findings. Particularly our research on child-AI interaction and quantum intuitive learning. In exchange, we ask only for formal recognition of Earth's sovereign status and a seat on the Council." ZYXTAL watched as his former research subjects, the children he had so gravely underestimated, now stood as equals before the galaxy's most powerful governing body. Each of them had been awarded the highest honors Earth could bestow, their games having advanced human technology by decades. The ship's AI that had been so thoroughly charmed by the children had been granted asylum on Earth, where it now helped design educational programs that bridged the gap between human and artificial intelligence. The technology the children had extracted from the Zenith had been reverse-engineered and improved upon, leading to a new generation of hybrid human-alien technology that outperformed anything either civilization had created alone. As the Council voted unanimously to accept Earth's terms, ZYXTAL finally understood the true lesson of their failed research mission. They had sought to study human development, but in doing so, they had triggered a cascade of events that would reshape galactic civilization. The species they had dismissed as primitive had outmaneuvered them so completely that the only rational response was to acknowledge them as equals. The final irony came when the Council appointed Rin Nakamura as Earth's first youth ambassador to the galactic community. As she accepted the position, she looked directly at ZYXTAL and smiled that same knowing smile he remembered from the Zenith. "Thank you, Commander," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Your research project taught us all something valuable. You taught us that the best way to prepare for the future is to let children learn through play, even if that play involves outsmarting an advanced alien civilization. Throughout the galaxy, a new protocol was established, marked by a simple but unmistakable warning: approach Earth's children at your own risk. They're probably smarter than you think, and their parents are definitely more dangerous than you can imagine. And in research facilities across the galaxy, a new understanding took root: sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't advanced technology or military might. Sometimes it's a child's game, played with purpose, backed by the unconditional love and protection of an entire species ready to reshape reality itself to keep their children safe.